Hey everyone, welcome to another Rival LinkedIn Live. If you're new here, I'm Purnima Farah. I'm Rival's Chief Product Officer. And today, it is my distinct pleasure to be joined by Brian Fink, who is the Talent Acquisition Leader at McAfee. Brian has had an amazing career serving and building several talent acquisition organizations across McAfee, Apple, and a variety of other ZocDoc, a variety of other organizations. Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, hey, I am excited to be on this conversation today. A little bit about me. Everything that she just said is true. I where I sit today is I sit in Atlanta, Georgia. I am blessed to have my number one cheerleader is my daughter. We were sharing photos of her earlier. I'm excited about the road ahead in recruiting. I typically have office hours every Friday where I try to work with recruiters that are outside the organizations that I work at, usually about a 4 hour block, where we just have a conversation about what's going on in the world and the searches they're working on. And I think one of the big topics that everybody's hitting on today is my job going to be replaced by AI? I think it's a
Mhm.
big question, right? And I think there's a lot of scare tactics out there, and I think there is a lot of truth. And I hope that we're going to get into that conversation today, whether it's something that I learned while I was at Twitter, AWS, Apple, McAfee, or any of the other brands. Like you mentioned, ZocDoc, great team that I was with there. Shout out to Carson Wagner. Really love that team. I'm so happy to be here today. Thanks for making space for me.
Of course, happy to have you. And to your point, Brian, one of the things that is very exciting about your particular skill sets is that not only do you think about building talent acquisition teams and how to help scale recruiter efficiency and creating world-class candidate experience, you also code. You also look at what AI tools and technologies are doing out there. So you're a practitioner in both ways, which is absolutely fantastic and such a rare blend of talent out there. So today we're going to continue our conversation on the most from our most recent webinar where we started to talk about common myths about AI and talent acquisition. Is AI here to take your job? Can it make your life easier? Is it driving real business outcomes? Our hope is that the audience walks away from today's discussion with a better understanding of how AI can be leveraged to make meaningful changes to the hiring process. So to get right into it, Brian, tell me, as you're having these discussions across both your organization and throughout the industry, what is the most persistent myth about AI that you're hearing in either recruiting or pre-boarding? And why do you think it continues to circulate?
So in recruiting, the myth that I continue to hear is that AI is not good enough to take our jobs, right? I think that there's a lot of truth to that, but I think that people are holding too steadfast to the past, right? When the internet came along as recruiters, we didn't hold fast to the fax machine and hope that it was going to continue to bring us resumes. We didn't, right?
Yep.
So I would articulate that people are scared of what they don't know, right? That really is what drives, hate and animosity around the world. So if we just take a little bit of time to kind of play with the tool and see where it makes sense and how it can improve our workflows, I think that there's not just efficiency gains for the organization, but I think there's quality of life that falls back on the recruiter. The TA professional or the HR leader, right? A question that I often get is about compensation, is what are we where are things in the market, what's going on, how are we paying people, right? And if you go to the internet, you can Google Glassdoor and you can find out how people are being paid, or you can load all that information into a GPT, whether it's Chat GPT, whether it's Perplexity, which is my favorite, or maybe you're using Gemini on your screen, which I love the little gem.
Mhm.
I got to spread all my gems and shout out to everybody, right? Is that information can become readily available and it can become actionable for you to create a better organization and a better candidate experience, which I think leads to the second part of your question about onboarding, right?
Yep.
Candidate experience doesn't simply end with when the recruiter hands the candidate over to the hiring manager. In fact, in a lot of ways, that's actually where it begins again. Because if you don't deliver a world-class experience for somebody in the recruiting process and in the onboarding process, you negate the likelihood that you're going to be able to build referrals and a referral network with that individual. So I just look at it in a lot of different lights, that it has pros and it has cons. Right now, for me, the pros outweigh the cons. And I think that we need to be more future facing and fortunate enough to kind of be able to play with these technologies in the work environments that we're in.
Absolutely. I think to your point, yes, we can have AI help with decision making and bring in progress in TA teams. To your point, also the candidate experience layers can really be enhanced so much further if we were looking for AI based assistance and automation that can really go into how these candidate layers can become easier to scale. Um, can you share a real life example on where busting an AI myth has led to meaningful change in your hiring process?
Absolutely. Okay, so there is a myth right now that if you're interviewing somebody and they're deploying an AI, ask them to wave their hand in front of their face and it will disrupt the continuity, right? Candidates are going to use AIs. They are, right? They used it to auto apply, they used it to craft their resume. They're going to use it in the interview unless you succinctly and specifically state that you cannot use AI in the interview process. Why wouldn't a candidate use it?
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. So the mythology, that circulates is that you get a candidate to wave their hand in front of their face. If I wave my hand in front of my face, you can't tell whether or not I'm reading from a chat GPT or, actually my favorite, uh, my favorite is perplexity, but my favorite little GPT interview hack is using the gem that appears in the upper left hand, I mean, right hand corner of your Chrome browser. And when you use that, nobody can tell that you have used a GPT other than if your eyes continue to go off to that side of the screen, right? So that's a mythology that I would kind of say, look, candidates are using it. Don't be naive. Don't rely on the hand test. Don't rely on the breath test. Those are all instances that are gonna flaw your system and flaw your process.
Yeah, I guess, is it bad for candidates to use AI, right? Like, we want them to learn how to leverage technology that is out there to enhance their productivity, if you will. Um, and at the same time, we want them to learn how to think about modern ways of enhancing their productivity. So where is the line, if you will, in terms of allowing candidates to use that modern tech versus um, staying true to the course, if you will, in terms of tried and true methods of the past?
So, I would I look at my 9-year-old daughter, and she loves her iPhone and her calculator, right? And she says, "Dad, I'm looking around for my wife to tell me that I tell her it's okay. Is that, Dad, why do I have to do 47 times 7 by hand?" And I'm like, the rigor in the process is it makes you smarter and more resilient. It creates neuroplasticity. And I get this look from this 9-year-old that's like, neuroplasticity. Right. So the reality of it though is that what we need to be teaching or what we need to be looking for, and this is going to go to skills based hiring, is do they have the skills to do the job? Do they have the
Right.
faculties to make these connections, to be able to drive this level of innovation, especially when we're talking about technical talent, right?
Yeah.
If a candidate can't debug their own code, and that is a key part of the job, then we have a problem. But if they can use, if you're a it's my understanding. I don't know how true this is, so I'm kind of hesitant to say it. But like, organizations like Amazon, they've got engineers that are using Cursor to do auto completion of code and debugging.
Mhm.
Well, if your job is to be a coder and not QA your own code, then I think you're in the right?
Mhm.
But I think you should be able to execute and show computer fundamentals or CS fundamentals in that interview process if that's core to the job that you're doing and what
Right.
you're trying to build today.
Absolutely. To your point, I think one of the questions I've started to like asking candidates is, um, what tasks are you or workflows are you successfully automating without losing your skills or productivity in your role via AI. So essentially, putting it front and center, if you will, that we understand you leverage AI, but what are the tasks or workflows that you're actually automating versus not, is often a good way, I think, to give candidates that grace of, yes, we understand you're thinking further, similar to your fax machine analogy, but then balancing that with the need for the strength of skills to be there in place as well. Um, I want to pivot.
P, I want to double click on that for a second, right? Like
Sure.
I want to hold the feet to the fire. What you're asking is a very intelligent question, a very forward-thinking question that I think that if you're hiring an engineer or if you're hiring a recruiter, you're hiring an accountant, you should be asking them and say, this chat GPT thing, it's really hot right now.
Mhm.
Are you doing anything to drive automation in your workflows using chat GPT? If they tell you that they're not, they're the I would not be concerned with whether they're telling the truth or not. What I would be concerned about is the whether or not they're a luddite that is going to sit back, and their job is going to be overtaken by somebody who will use chat GPT.
Right.
Full disclosure, I didn't know how to build a pivot table. I used to run to my wife and say, help me to build this pivot table. I use Copilot now and I'm like, build me a pivot table. I have awesome Excel spreadsheets. I am the man.
Mhm. It's a that's a funny example. VLOOKUP is my nemesis, and I know how to do it until I stop doing it, and then I have to go back and reteach it to myself. And so, to your point, when it comes to those tools, it's not like we don't necessarily know how to do it. Sometimes it's also about accelerating, productivity, right? So let's talk about, in that sense, on moving from candidate into the recruiter layer. Um, uh, what are some of the, how are TA leaders today distinguishing between genuine AI capabilities versus vendor hype? What are they actually looking for, and what does that look like? Obviously, at Rival, we think about this a lot in terms of how we're building AI and the use cases that we are prioritizing. But I'm curious, from a practitioner lens, what you're seeing there.
So this is where I think that you lean on the business. And this goes back to the relationship a recruiter has with the business. If we're assessing a if we're assessing a tool that is a AI tool, the chances that a recruiter has a degree in CS, which I don't have a degree in CS, I have an AB in political science. Okay. Um, do you want me, does the organization really want me to be the person to assess whether or not something does AI? And
Hmm.
we've already discussed that I can code, right? And I know Python and I know JavaScript and what have you. But do you really want me to be the person that evaluates whether or not it's AI? So if I've got a strong relationship with the business, i.e., my artificial intelligence ML engineers, what's it gonna be worth to the organization as a whole if I say, can you give me 30 minutes of your time to assess this tool that's supposed to accelerate recruiting and help me determine whether this is AI hype or whether this is AI hype? All right. Like, let's get a member of the team in there and have the conversation. I think it cuts a lot of noise out of the process. I mean, there are a lot of tools that talk about the fact that they're AI first. Just because you put .ai at the end of your name doesn't make you an AI tool, right?
Right.
and
Right.
and and also, like, what is the difference to a recruiter? And I'm not bashing my cohort, but what's the difference between multiple if then statements and something that is truly agentic, right? Like, truly agentic would be, um, go out and find a candidate based upon a profile, reach out to the candidate based
Yeah.
on their specific profile. And candidate number two, you reach out to them in a different way based on their specific profile. And when they come back, you answer their questions that are table stakes in a chatbot environment. And then you answer the question, would you like to talk to somebody? And then put it on my calendar. That's bringing together multiple applications and it's fusing together multiple if then that statements.
Yes. To your point, we need to almost look at the various steps that a recruiter is taking, and kind of streamlining that end-to-end journey into efficiency, and ensuring that the candidate experience is not diluted in any way, but the automation layers are in place, analytics are layered on top of it, and AI is ultimately coming in to surface the right information at the right time to the right people. And there's a lot of power in that kind of technology, and I'm very, I'm interested to see us move, from prompt engineering, where recruiters are telling the system what to do, which is a good step in the right direction, to essentially automated AI, which will be more about trusting the system enough to fully delegate some of these tasks, so that there are higher level productivity gains, and almost a change in terms of the role definition itself.
So I think that the role, so you talk about that last piece about the role definition changing. I've been, I was talking with my friend Benjamin Mina the other day. We had a conversation like I guess Monday or Tuesday, about this and about and I've also had the same conversation with Tommy Weinhardt, who is at Indy Mountain, great recruiter, about what the future role is supposed to look like, how it's going to be defined. And as we talk about that definition, I think that there is a bifurcation of the role, right? Like becoming the true talent advisor. There's been a lot of buzz on LinkedIn lately about who is a talent advisor, how do they advise the business, what data do they bring them.
Hmm.
Well, I would also say about the data that you bring them, right? How do you tell that story to an audience if you're not like if you're not like a Michael Goldberg who puts that data into Power BI? Hey Michael, that to tell that story. Or what if you're not that John G who I worked with at Twitter, who would put everything into Looker Studio to be able to tell a more dynamic story to the team that was coming in from Elon, right? Like you've and how are you supposed to learn in this day and age?
Right.
Is it simply just watching YouTube videos and knowing kung fu as Neo would tell us, or is it getting in there and massaging the data and going beyond the prompt engineering? Right. One of the things that I like about Perplexity, one of the things I like about Manus.im, is that it prompts you about the next step that you want to take. Right. Manus, I got to be honest with you. I don't know why Manus is always asking me, do you want to turn this into a PowerPoint or would you like to build a website? And I'm like, I don't want to do either of those things. Okay. Like, I just want the data. Um, but that really talks about becoming an AI native recruiter or an AI native talent professional or an AI native train L&D member of the team, that you go the distance to personalize and specify what message you're communicating to a specific individual at a specific instance to drive a specific outcome.
Absolutely. We have a couple more minutes. So let me ask you my last question, which comes up often, is how we ensure the AI tools remain inclusive and bias aware throughout the hiring funnel. Obviously, at Rival, as we build our tools, we think about AI assisted capabilities and AI powered capabilities as two distinct things, and focused on when it makes sense to bring in either one, and providing those bias settings, if you will, explicitly, so that organizations can see where they can make adjustments as needed. But what are some of the things that you're doing as you're bringing in AI tools into your hiring funnel?
So one of the things that I think has a lot of value that people are underutilizing are tools like MetaView or BrightHire. They compete in the same space, that they do interview. They record the interview. Okay, is that use that as a coaching moment, not to get rid of the ums and ahs, but use it as a coaching moment to figure out, are hiring managers asking questions that they should not be asking, right? Like a favorite question that hiring managers love to ask in the South, and yes, I'm dinging the South, born Southerner, raised and very proud of the South and what have you. But the one of the questions they love to ask is, well, where do you go to church? That's loaded with bias,
Hmm.
right? Like that is loaded with bias, right? So how do we, if the recruiter is not on the call with the hiring manager and the candidate, how do we know unless the candidate tells us, by the way, this person asked me a question that made me feel uncomfortable, right?
Mhm.
We're able to take that data and we're able to synthesize and find out who a good interviewer is and who a bad interviewer is. And we're able to isolate the types of questions that are being asked.
Agreed. So to your point, it's making sure that we are not introducing biased questions. We're introducing processes in place that kind of bring in the right layers of tooling so that we can assess how we are evaluating candidates, evaluating the funnel, and also how we're really scaling the end-to-end journey. Oh, Brian, listen, the time's flown by. Thank you so much for such an
I know. I thought
insightful
we were here for an
conversation.
hour. Does
I
anybody else want to hang out?
get
Okay, it's all good.
we can absolutely talk further at ease. And thank you all for joining us. Be sure to keep following Rival on LinkedIn for more AI product news. We are actually launching the industry's first agentic AI for our workflow product that will focus on scaling knowledge agents, both on the HR practitioner and employee layers this week. So I'm very excited. You'll learn more about that soon. There are a lot of exciting new things coming your way. And Brian, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. I can't wait to continue our discussion further as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Um, I'm really excited about the rocket ship and the journey. Be well.
You too. Thanks.